Hey guys, it's Hayes with CheatSheetPros.com. Today is Friday, May 5th, and I have a couple days off work, so I wanted to dive back into some daily fantasy baseball and look at some stacks and just kind of talk about that, look over the sheet a little bit. Today's May 5th, 2023, and we're going to look at a lot of the main slate plays. There is one showdown in a couple of hours, but a few of the things that I do when I'm looking for teams to stack is I'll come over here to this hitters tab, and you can see all these tabs down here we have, and I'll look at the last 7 days the player has played and look at these averages to kind of see. You can see they're color coded, so like right here this dude's been red hot, so Byron Buxton, and you can see who they're facing, what the ERA whip is for that pitcher, where they're projected to hit in the lineup, and I'll kind of build a group of players that I like or a group of players that I want to take a look at. And then over here on the right, we also have batter versus pitcher data. So typically, I'll sort by hits. I'll go high to low to find the players that have the most hits, and then kind of sort down through this data, take a look at it. But let's look at this stacker tab. So this is the first place that I always start when I'm looking for stacks. Now, we've got the Vegas team implied total. Now, the showdown slate's on here, so just disregard that one. But what people do to start off is they look at the Vegas team implied total, which is this column, and they sort it high to low. So your chalky stacks are going to be kind of these top 3 here, and they're going to work their way down. Now, we have the Cheat Sheet Pro projected total. So if you want to sort by that and then see some differences that will go up there, we also have our algo that you can put up top. If we're missing any data on any of these players, we're going to have this little ... So just kind of disregard that, go down. But this is going to show you team runs per game, batting average, season last 3, and their last 10 power rankings. If you want something simple, just look at the last 10 power rankings, look at the pitcher that they're facing, and I like seeing the last start that the pitcher did. And one of the fun things that I use is this earned runs allowed over the last 5 games. So typically a pitcher that's not giving up any earned runs are not going to be good for daily fantasy. So if we come over here, we sort by this average, we're just going to look at it from high to low. So up top we have Cincinnati. It's Vegas projected at only 4.4. So that should be relatively lower owned. Now they're ranked 20th over the last 10 games. So not great, but definitely someone you should consider. Now when you're looking at the cost per hitter, so I figure up an average cost for DK on average cost per hitter for a 5-man stack. So if you're in the 3,000 range anywhere, that is dirt cheap. You can stack that team, have 2 stud pitchers, fill studs in your holes. Your mid-tier is going to be about the mid-4,000. Low, I'd say 43 to 47 is kind of that middle of the road. That's kind of where you want to be typically. If you get up in some of these where it's over 5,000 per hitter, it's very hard to build a strong lineup. Outside of that, you have to have some value plays, and you have to have some value pitchers and get lucky a little bit. So those are the 3 different tiers of pitching or hitting that I look at as far as stacks. So when we come up here, so Lance Lynn, so far, Lance Lynn's a good pitcher, but what I love about the White Sox, and if you follow our Twitter, you saw the screenshot I posted, I got a plus 899, so plus 9 units on a live bet. I had 2 teams that were down by 1, plenty of innings left in the game, and the opponent bullpen was horrible. There's no way they were going to hold that lead. They both hit, so I put a half unit on it, so I ended up 4.5 units with that. And you can also look at the bullpen here. So the White Sox have the 29th bullpen over the last 14 days, and with a 6.44 ERA. And then you can see Lynn here, his last start, it was against Tampa, so kind of take that with a grain of salt because they're playing really good right now. But he went 6.1 innings, gave up 4 earned runs, but he did have 10 Ks. Now, over his last 5 starts, he's allowed 4, 4, 5, 3, and 8 earned runs. So he's averaging 4.8 earned runs allowed. So that's kind of a boost up for Cincinnati, especially if I can get this stack somewhere between $3,300 and $3,700 per hitter. You can stack 5 of those guys super cheap. So that's the first one that I really like. The second one is Kansas City, and it's going to be a little bit chalkier. Vegas has them projected at 5.1, which I'm kind of shocked by, but you know, we've got them projected a little higher than that. And we can get that one down to $3,140 per hitter up to $3,680. So another super cheap stack. You could even combo stack these 2 teams and do like a 4-4 or 4-3 with a 1-off, and then put any 2 pitchers you want in there and have a lot of fun with that. So they're going up against Kyle, which in his last start, he went 5 innings, only 1 earned run. That's not bad, so he's coming off of a good start. But Oakland's bullpen is the only one that's worse than the White Sox. It ranks 30th. And then his prior 3 starts, he's allowed 4, 6, and 6 earned runs. So there's a little bit of upside there. Now, Cincinnati and Kansas City in the last 10 power ranks, they're only 20 and 23rd. So there's a reason those players are cheap. They've been sucking a little bit lately. So we're going to dive into those a little bit and look at some cheap stacks and kind of build some lineups. Now, if you want to get to the higher end, you come down here, you have Atlanta, who's #1 in our last 10 power rankings. Vegas has them projected at 5 runs, which is going to be one of the top 3 or 4, so it's going to be chalky. We have them slightly over that at 5.2, and you can see this is a high-end stack. This is going to be very expensive. So we're looking at $4,700 to $5,400, depending on which way you want to go. So just know if you use Atlanta, they're expensive, they're going to be chalky, and we need to find some value plays. If you want to go cheap, we like Cincy, we like Kansas City. The other stack that I do like, if you want to come down here, Tampa Bay is in a tougher matchup, but they have been phenomenal. They're scoring 6.6 runs per game. They're averaging 5 runs per game over the last 3. And, I mean, they've just been absolutely phenomenal. Now, they're going up against the Yankees, who have a really good bullpen. So this might be one where you hope you get your runs early on. And Brito hasn't been terrible. He's allowed 2, 3, and 1 earned runs over his recent starts. But Tampa finds a way to score. So if you want to go high in there, I don't mind that as well. You can also come in here and sort this and say, okay, who's the cheapest possible stack I could do for the top 5 hitters? And that would be Detroit against Jordan Montgomery. Well, Montgomery's been really good. He allowed 1 earned run last time out, no earned runs. Had a bad start. I'll give him a break there, 2 and 0. So probably don't want to stack that. But you can kind of dive through these pitchers, take a look at it. And on the flip side, if you're looking for pitchers to use for DFS, I'm going to add a column in here with their DFS salary, because that's one thing that I was looking for today that I realized is not in here. And so this has, you know, the average allowed per runs. We'll just flip it upside down and say lowest. Okay, Senzatella, he's got 1 start. But Chirinos, he doesn't throw that many innings, but 1-0-0-0, that's a pretty good run. And then Max Fried, I'm sure he's pretty expensive. Good bullpen behind him, 0-0-0 and 1 earned run. So he's allowing 0.3 earned runs in his 4 starts this year. Dane Dunning hadn't even been that bad, 2-2-0-0-0. Bailey Ober, 1 and 1. So you kind of, this gives you a place to look at it. So I explain to people as pretend you've got a bucket and you're going to take these players, say, okay, this is a good pitcher. I'm going to put him in the cash game bucket or the GPP bucket, or, you know, Lance Lynn, I know he's good. He was good last year. He's sucking. So, you know, maybe he's a GPP play for you. But this will give you a good idea of like what pitchers to use and then what teams to stack against what pitchers. Now, you can go over here to this main tab and there is a crap ton of stats. We even get down and we have the individual player logs. This is mainly if you're doing player props and prize picks. It will give you all these fun stats. But if we're just doing DFS stacks, I built this one called X Factor, and I love this tab. It's so much fun to play with. So we're going to take a look at it and kind of show you how you can be a little bit different when you're doing these. So let me flip down here. Let me find a team. Okay, so for example, Cincinnati. And I'm going to try to blow this up for you so you can see a little bit. Zoom. Let's go zoom. Let's go 120. All right, that should be nice and big on your screen right here. Let me slide this over and look. All right, I'll try to get that right in the middle. All right, so when we're looking at this, this gives you a quick glimpse at the lineup. Now, we can tell the lineup is not confirmed right here. When the lineup is confirmed, it'll pop over to yes. So if you download this sheet in the morning and you save it to your desktop, and then you open it up at lunch, the first 10 seconds, it's going to go out and look and say, hey, are the lineups confirmed? And if they are, they're going to come back and change them, and they will update here. So we can tell once this lineup's confirmed what we want to do. Now, your average DFS player, I don't know why people always say, oh, they don't stack, they don't stack. That's the #1 thing anyone that plays baseball learns is stack. Now, typically, they're going to come in, they're going to stack 1 to 4, 1 to 5, maybe 2 to 6. Those are the most popular stacks. And a lot of people, they won't even look at the batters. They're just like, okay, confirmed lineup, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you want to find out how you can be different. So a lot of the professional DFS players, they'll talk about wraparound stacks, like doing 9, 1, 2, 3, So I'm going to show you a way to be a little bit different, because it's okay to play a stack that's chalky if you're not doing 1 to 5. If you're doing 1 to 5, you have to be careful, because if that stack does well, typically there's going to be 15, 20 other lineups the exact same. So when we're looking at Cincinnati, some of the things that I want to look at is just this average over here. Now, these are the last 7 days that this player has played, so I want to stress that. It's not the last 7 days, so like let's say, for example, if Jonathan India, he's just coming back from an injury, these 7 games might have been from a month ago. So just something you have to keep an eye on. But I'm going to look at the averages. Now, I look at this, and it doesn't really make me that excited. So we have blue, which is not real good. That's your lower numbers, you know, 4 to 7, 4 to 8, somewhere in that range. So your top 5 hitters here average 5.4, 4.6, 4.9. So this, to me, would be a GPP stack because it's cheap. And when I'm looking for the red across here, well, in the last 5 games, there's only 3 red spots on the entire thing. So nothing really good. Now, Nick Senzel has been freaking red hot. And I just know this from my season-long leagues. Look at this, 20, 19, 7, 22, and 26. So he is an absolute must if you were going to stack Cincinnati. So these people might come in and go, okay, I'm going to stack 1 through 5. You know, well, you're going to get some mediocre players, but you want to get the best players. So for me, I'm going to say I want the 6-hitter Ramos in. He's had some good games, nothing great, but decent. Senzel's a must, so I've got to have him. If he's in the 8 hole, I would be shocked. But 6-8, so you can do 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. You could do 2, 3, 4, 6, 8. You know, you could mix it up, do a different stack, and say, I'm just going to put Senzel in here because he's probably pretty inexpensive for the most part. But he's got the highest average, and he's got 4 of these red line games in the last 7. So he's someone I would definitely look at. Now let me flip over here and look at Kansas City, because I know when I was glancing at that this morning, it was definitely a little better. Okay, so now when I'm looking at Kansas City, this is our lineup here. We're going to check. It's not been confirmed, so this is the projected lineup. And then we have the averages over here. Well, Miguel Garcia, I don't know who that is. This just means we don't have the game logs pulled for them yet. About every 3 days, I do a new batch of players, and I keep adding them in because there's 500 to 700 guys in the MLB. But look at all of this red. This is beautiful. So I would, whoops. So I would not, oh, I lost it. There it is. So I wouldn't mind doing 1 through 4. Witt, Olivares, Vinny, and Perez right off the bat. So we have 4 guys that are in the green. So a 1 through 4 stack here wouldn't be bad at all. And then you want to find one of these last guys to fill in, which you can see none of them have really been doing anything. I would manually go back, look at Garcia's logs, and see if you want to do a 1 through 5. Michael Massey's picking it up a little bit. He had a really good spring training, so maybe you do 1 through 4 with a 6 and skip this guy, just depending on what he's done. And then over here, you can also see just real quick their batting average and their strikeout rate for the season. And then you can see those stats for the season for the pitcher hand. So if you're looking at an individual player, let's say Kansas City was going to be very popular, you might look over here and say, okay, well, Perez versus pitcher hand, which is a lefty, which we can see up here, you know, he's batting 269 with a 16% strikeout rate, but versus lefties, look at this, his batting average drops to an 0.77 with a lower strikeout rate. So I don't know how many at-bats that is, but you could dive into it and look. So maybe you skip Perez and flip around. Just this will show you little ways where you can be different. But the top 2, Witt and Olivares, I definitely want to use them. They're batting 344 and 333 versus pitcher hand, and Vinny is even 308. So you have 3 guys, the 1, 2, 3. And then Michael Massey, even though he's not been off to a good year overall, he's decent versus lefties. He's batting 308. So you could even do a 1, a 2, a 3. Take Massey at 6, and then, you know, just kind of rotate in that other guy. Now let's flip down and let's find Atlanta, and I'll show you an expensive stack, and we'll look at them. Scrolling. All right, so we got Atlanta over here. I'm going to slide over so you can see this. Slide over, get that on the screen. All right, so now we're taking a look at this. Now, one thing I love about Atlanta is look at these runs scored per game. 6, 14, 6, 9. I mean, that's a phenomenal 4 games. And then 3, 4, 4, pretty average, not too bad. And then Dean, He's allowed 5 earned runs in his last start to a bad Detroit team, and then he allowed 4 earned runs to Boston. Now, they've got a good bullpen, so we want to try to get 5 or 6 off the starter so we can go after it. And we can see that he's a righty, so typically your season and your pitcher hand for righties are going to be pretty close to the same because that's the majority of the pitchers. But when you come down here, we're going to look, okay, where do we see the most red at? So Acuna, he's been on fire. He's probably the highest one. He has an average in the green of 12.4. His recent games, 14, 22, 14, 0, 26. So I would say he is a must to put him in there. He's batting .355 on the season, .323 versus righty. So we're going to start it off with Acuna. And then down here, you know, if you wanted to skip Matt Olson, that wouldn't be bad. All of these guys have been pretty solid. So I'd probably get a little creative because this will be chalky. It will be expensive. I'd come down here. I like Ozzie Albies. You can see he dips to a 200 versus righties, but I mean, he's been pretty solid. He's got 20, 30, 50, 52, 53, 63 points, fantasy points over his last 3 games. So I would definitely probably want Albies. Vaughn Grissom, he's just been crap in the bed. He hasn't been any good. Sam Hilliard, same way. So the 7 and the 8 guy we could throw out. Pilar, now this would be good if you think it's going to be chalky. He's been pretty decent. 10, 13, 16, 7, 14, 7. So pretty decent. So you could skip the 7 and 8, and then you could even go 9, 1, and then pick a couple of these guys out and then throw Albies in there at the 6 hole. Just mix it up a little bit. You typically don't want to have a bunch of gaps between players. 1 or 2 isn't terrible, especially if you've got a bad player with a high strikeout rate versus pitcher hand in there. So that's something to take a look at. But anyways, I just kind of wanted to show you guys how I build my stacks and what I'm looking at. And then if you're looking for value hitters, you can come over here to our hitters tab. And this has their same fantasy stuff the last 7 days. And I like to just go average last 7, high to low. So we've got some games here where players we don't have logs on, so let's filter those out. So just to make it look good, so these are going to be your highest average guys, high to low. So Buxton is the #1. So he's 5,300 on DraftKings, 38 on FanDuel. So if you do a stack and you can fit Buxton in there, you know, he's going up against a pitcher that's not real great. He would probably be a good add. I also scroll down here. I play on DraftKings primarily, so if I don't go into all the FanDuel salaries, that's why. So I'll scroll down here once I have this sorted high to low, and I'll see, you know, salary-wise. Well, the one that jumps out is Jake Bauers. So if he does play, he's up against a decent pitcher and a decent bullpen. He's only got 1 game. He's probably going to bat last, but 16 DK points at min price, that's not terrible, you know, putting him in there. And typically, I'm going to look for some green guys. So over here, we see Nick Senzel again. And on DK, he's 2nd, 3rd, or outfield. Lance Lynn, 0-4, 7.16 ERA, 1.59 whip. Definitely someone we can take advantage of. And he's got 4 red tier games in his last 7. He's only $3,000, so that would be a good one-off to put in there. Connor Wong and Yoshida, they're going to go up against Zach Wheeler, who's actually pretty decent, so I would probably stay away from them. Connor Wong is only 2,400, so if he's in the lineup, that would be a cheap punt you could stick in there. He's been doing really well. Yoshida, he's 4,900. That's a little expensive to go up against Zach Wheeler, but definitely wouldn't be a terrible one-off. Corbin Burns, kind of the same way. I would avoid going up against them. And then you can even scroll down here and look and say, okay, what pitchers have a bad ERA? Well, here's one that jumps out. Kramer, however you say his name. Well, that's Ronald Acuna. He's going to be expensive. He's 66. And then you come down here. I'll get out of here. And then you just kind of keep going. Well, here, Vargas, you know, he's got 2 good games. But it just gives you a way to kind of look down and find some one-off players. You could even sort this out by position. So if you're looking for a catcher or a third baseman or something along those lines, that will flip it out for you. If you just want raw projections, you can say, okay, who's projected the most value? And then, you know, kind of look at how they've been doing. So these 2 guys here jump out. So Eloy has been doing really good. Look at this, 26, 10, 16, 16, and 11. Only $3,200. He is going up against Hunter Green, so not the best matchup, but still, he's been on fire. Edward Olivares, an outfielder. He's been doing really well. He's only $2,700. So once I come up with my stack of 4 to 5, I try to do 2 mini stacks, 4 and 4 or 5 and 3. If you need some one-off players, this is a good place to find them. But again, you know, just be a little bit different. Don't be your traditional 1 through 5, you know, mix it up a little bit. And especially the contest you're playing in, if you're playing in one where there's 50,000 entries, you want to be as different as possible. I won't even do a 1 through 5 in something that big. If you're doing a higher buy-in single entry contest, then you don't have to be as different because you're going to have better odds. But again, that's kind of what we got. So I just wanted to talk a little bit of daily fantasy because I don't get a lot of time to dabble in that. So just wanted to chat with you guys. Have a good day.